Hello everyone, it's Swam here, and today I'm going to give you guys a tour of my quarantine drawings. I know that the coronavirus have had a huge impact on our economy and also on our mental health. And something that I do to cope all the shenanigans that's going on around the world is by drawing. I have drawn a lot of things during quarantine, especially a lot of portraits, and I've also discovered a lot of new techniques. Like I've never embroidered before, and well, here I am embroidering stuff. I guess this wouldn't be called a sketchbook tour since I don't have a sketchbook. What I would do is that I would just sketch on pieces of paper and I would save them in folders. So I guess this is like a folder tour. Here's my setup. I have one camera over here which is going to record my drawings and another camera over here which is going to record me. A little story before I start this video. I actually did film this sketchbook tour last week until I realized that the audio was a little bad, so I just had to film it again, but it was fine, it's not the end of the world. First off, I have this landscape drawing that I drew in the beginning of COVID-19. This was back when COVID-19 first started, but it wasn't taken so seriously. Like my TikTok would just be filled with coronavirus memes and Karen talks. So I drew this, and I remembered being so proud of this smoke coming up the chimney effect that I did. And to do that, I just took an eraser and erased some part of the mountain, so it kind of looks like smoke coming up the chimney, right? This little drawing I drew right after the previous one, and these are just a bunch of rocks on a beach, or maybe it's a bay. Next. This one I believe is one of my last landscape drawings, because I'm not a very big fan of landscape. This one is also one of the most frustrating drawings that I did, mainly because of these daffodils underneath the trees. I don't know, you tell me. There are just some mountains on the back, and I think initially there were some cable cars which I didn't really bother drawing. I didn't even finish up the leaves on the trees. These are some landscapes that I did, and now we're going to move on to portraits. And if you're wondering, I did organize my drawings chronologically. To start off, this is a drawing of Timothy Chalamet that I drew really late at night. What I struggled the most was the hair, but then later you'll see how that will progress. I drew this in around 2 hours, and when I finished drawing this, I was so proud of how it turned out. Okay. Look, what we're going to do is we're going to start reviewing the drawings on the left, and we're going to work our way to the right. So we're going to start with this little cartoon on the left. This little cartoon is called Asterix, and it's basically a French cartoon character, and I was obsessed with him when I was a kid. My dad would have a stack of these cartoons, and it really helped out during my beginning stages of learning French. And you should really check out the cartoonist that draws this cartoon too. He's like really cool. Next up, we got Dylan Sprouse. I did this when season 4 in Riverdale came out, and I remember liking Riverdale quite a bit, so I decided to draw Cole Sprouse. I drew this in around 3 hours, and I believe I left a message in the back because I got really frustrated with this drawing, so I stopped drawing. It's quite a shame because I think it's turning out really good. Next we got, these two drawings are an exception because I drew this last year, but I still put them together because like they're the same character. But this, I do this right after Cole Sprouse. If you're wondering who they are both Shaw Blossom, played by Madeline Patch in the show Riverdale. I drew this in around 2 hours and I stopped because I didn't really like where this is heading. This one I drew this last year, so I'm not gonna review this. Next up, we got this eye that I drew last year, and this one has a little special story. So I'm gonna try to zoom in a little so that you guys can see this better. This, I do this for a little French competition that was held this summer and during the COVID period. And basically, we had to draw something for the theme. The theme was Liberté, Égalité, Fraternité, which translates to liberty, equality, and fraternity. We had to include the French flag in it, so I do like the French flag right about here. I had this idea to go completely original. So this I didn't copy from a landscape, from a reference photo. I know for a fact that Paris is known for their pavé roads. I know that because I've been there too. I do the Eiffel Tower, even though I find it quite overrated. And the showpiece of it all is this building / artifact. It's called a bistro, and my dad explained to me that back then, this is the place where artists and writers would gather up to exchange their ideas and their creations. So I find that quite cool. So I do that. And some clouds over here. Next, I'm gonna zoom out a little. Where should I start? This one I'm gonna start with me. I use a new technique. I think it's called hatch drawing or something, and it's basically like it's called cross hatching, now I remember. So it's basically using these stripes to isolate dark parts of the face to make it look three-dimensional, and that's what I did. And I do this before joining my Zoom history class, because I couldn't join history class, so I was just busy drawing myself. And 10 minutes later, my teacher told me that she had like an internet connection problem or something. So I decided to draw all my friends. On the left side of the page is my two friends, and they're both named Noah, and that is not the reason for why I put them together, even though it might be. It might just be intuition. Next up, we got my other two friends. And last but not least, I experimented with new style, this being cartoons. I have never drawn cartoons before, and I feel like I have drawn cartoons, but I've never used acrylics to draw a cartoon, and this was really out of my comfort zone. So I did this one night, and I used this yellow paint to just go around him, even though I feel like this yellow paint, I didn't really do a very good job. It's very inconsistent to like go around him to make him like glow. So that's that. I really like how all these turned out. These are just me and all my friends using these techniques, and you'll see how later I use these techniques very often. So before we go to the rest of the sketchbook, I have two drawings to show you guys. No, I have one drawing to show you guys, because this sketchbook tour is supposed to be chronologically organized. So right after I drew this, normally I drew these right afterwards. This is what I drew. These are just some cartoons that I found on Pinterest. This is just like, I don't know this cartoon, but I know that this is Ariel and this is Bella, and I used like acrylic paint to draw them. I didn't color this one because I lost the reference photo, so I just traced it with a red marker. Bella is really well done, even though Ariel is like meh, it's fine. It's not like really well done though. So we're gonna get this out of the way to show you guys the rest. Next up we got, okay, I'm gonna zoom out a little so you guys can see better. This got to be one of my favorite pages of my sketchbook tour. If you're wondering who these characters are, they are all from the show Elite, which I love. This summer I started to learn Spanish, So I started to watch Spanish shows on Netflix, and I came across this show called Elite and really liked it, so I watched the entire season. And I decided to draw the characters, because why not? So using the same techniques that I do on my friends, except this time I perfected it a little. I drew Esther Exposito, who plays Carla on the show Elite, and this is one of her Instagram photos that I copied and used this technique. This is one of my favorite drawings. I made her eyes a little bigger, so I really like how this turned out. This got to be one of my favorite drawings I did this during the quarantine. Underneath we got Guzman. I didn't really like how this one turned out though. I used acrylic in the hair. All the drawings I did here are monochromatic. Next up we got Ender. This is the actor Aaron Piper, and he plays Ender in the show Elite. I do this to portray drug abuse in teenagers. There are teenagers that suffer from drug abuse, and adults would blame them for it. But I feel like a better alternative than to blame teenagers would be to put ourselves in their shoes and to try to understand why they would abuse drugs and work from there to try to stop drug abuse. So that's a little inspiration for this little painting. Next up we got a little picture of my cat that I never finished, and a drawing of my best friend using the same cross-hatching method. And then we got, oh my god, we got more cross-hatching method. I feel like I was obsessed with this. This is Kendall Jenner that I found on Pinterest. This is Rosalia. I feel like this method is kind of like a really good song. Like we would listen to a good song several times until we get sick of it. This was my friend, my online friend, Katie. So before we move on, since this sketchbook tour is supposed to be chronologically organized, I'm gonna grab these two drawings that came with it. Shoot. This is the flower I drew, and this is also one of my first YouTube videos that I did, my first art YouTube video or TikTok. It's basically a flower, but you can see how consistent my shading has been and how realistic this is. It was like one of my first drawings that I really loved and I'm really proud of. So that's that. The next drawing, oh, this one is quite a humorous one. I had this idea to draw SpongeBob on a ripped body, so that's exactly what I did. And I also filmed this drawing on TikTok and on YouTube. I spent around 3 days, and I was so proud of how this turned out. I made TikToks and some other art videos. Next up we got this drawing I did throughout the quarantine drawing, and that is why this couldn't be like chronologically organized, because I did this 1 month after I did this. I draw this and then I forgot about it, and when I feel like it, I draw it again. And it's basically a drawing of 3 ripped dudes. And the first one I struggled with a lot, especially with the pants. You may be surprised because many people think I struggle with the muscles, but it's actually the pants, because the way the pants move are just kind of weird. The one I'm most proud of is the middle one. I feel like it turned out so realistic, so cool. The last one I didn't really finish, but I'll try to finish it later. So these are my pencil sketches, and we're gonna move on to this folder. This one is a little abstract piece that I did for my English class. I do the background red to represent the hard labor that has gone through people to create this article of clothing, and this bright yellow shirt to represent the fast fashion industry. This one I kind of used the same technique as the one I did on Aaron Piper. Basically a monochromatic palette, except for this one I used red. This is a random guy I found on Pinterest. I don't know who he is. What really struck me the most about the reference photo was his gaze, and that was when I was like, yes, this is what I want to draw. So I do this, and I didn't really finish up the fingers. Like the fingers is kind of more I guess conceptual or contemporary, and because I just use like big strokes of paint to show the highlights. And this is where I start to like try to understand shadows and highlights. And last but not least, we got some leaves that I drew from last year and then I colored. This was one of the paintings that I really had fun with. I didn't have a reference photo, I just tried to figure out how the highlights and shadows are going. Then we got Rosalia that I did not finish. I tried it, this was Rosalia, the Grammy moment, which I didn't really finish, which is a shame because I really should finish this. It's actually a really huge piece of paper, like this is my hand compared to this. And then on the back of my folder, we got some drafts and sketches that I did. This is like a random art piece. There's not a real message to it. I just drew this to have fun. It's just an eye and just my favorite French poetry and lyrics. And then we got some practice sketches. This one's a dog, this one's a dog too, a giraffe and 2 lovebirds. This animation idea that I had that I cannot get out of my brain, so I decided to sketch it out. My French teacher, who is really great but super intimidating. If you're watching this, I'm so sorry, please don't kill me. This is rosé that I drew from last year, but I don't want to talk about it because it's from last year. This is also rosé from last year, but this one is rosé from this year. If you don't know who Rosé is, she's from Blackpink, which is a really cool K-pop group. I do this while calling my friends. My friends and I would have these art therapy sessions where we would just call each other and draw people. And one day we decided to draw Rosé, and that's what I did. I do this with a pen. I didn't really sketch out anything, just random draft. This one's an abstract piece that I did just to have fun. Doesn't mean anything. And then a flamingo. Lastly, I want to share with you guys something that I've been working on to support the Black Lives Movement, and that is to draw an underrated black model. I really have to zoom out on this one because this is quite a big drawing. I've been drawing this for 3 days now and I haven't finished it yet. My mother really adores this painting, and I might give this to her after I'm done with this. Well, this is basically it. This wraps up my quarantine sketchbook tour. Thanks for coming along. Thanks for being my companion. Thanks for being my friend. Have a great, marvelous day, people. Bye.